jump in. The picture you're seeing there is I'm starting to lead Gold. I think it's Gold Rush at
I'm
Trout.
in the picture. I'm in that
Yes,
picture.
Paige is.
I'm the short one in the gray helmet.
This is Paige right here, and just land acknowledgement there. It's the Upper Chinook tribes land. I'm going to try to do land acknowledgement for the pictures that I know. A lot of these pictures, I don't know where they're from. But this is Trout Creek is in Oregon. It's a great, I mean, spectacular trad climbing location, mostly single pitch routes, very stiff routes. That's the challenge, that's the problem. But you know, once we can be in person, this is a place that we could go together. You guys could start following. When I first started trad climbing, and I'm going to maybe have a whole lesson on just my trad climbing journey. So I'm not going to talk a lot about it here, but I followed better trad climbers. That's just the nature of the beast. That's how you learn the art of trad climbing. So I'm here on at Trout Creek on Gold Rush. You can see, I guess I'm probably like 12 feet off, and I've decided that that's a good stance for my first placement. A little nerve wracking to be that high up for your first placement, but trying to make it happen there. So couldn't find a good quote, so I just quoted myself. It ain't about the gear, baby. It's about the people and the places the gear connects you with. This rack is the rack we were looking at before climbing Points of No in Patagonia, Argentina. We did not take all of this gear. We had this with us in Argentina, and then we decided what we're going to take. We try to make this rack as light as possible because it was an alpine climb. You'll see some pictures of that later. So these are some of the people that I love and that the gear connected me to. Matt Hardy, and some of you know Sam Morrison in the middle there. Matt Hardy's a good buddy of mine, climber. And yes, check out that beard, baby. Oop, what happened there? Lost it. So Points of No is here. Oop. Oh, I see. Yep, right there. So you can see Sam and Hardy are there in the picture. We end up camping right in here, and then the push is to go around here, back behind these rocks, and then come up this ramp, and then all the technical rock is on the backside there. I'm showing you this picture because I think the stereotype for trad climbing is that it's somehow like really gnarly, very hard. You know, it's not the case. One of the things I love about trad climbing is it can take you places that you can't get to any other way, but they can be fairly easy routes. You know, this one's kind of fourth class route. You know, we have to carry our packs here, so that makes it a little tricky. And as you can see, he has crampons on in that picture, but you could just be wearing rock shoes or approach shoes for this route and be placing trad gear. So West Ridge of Forbidden is another one that's awesome. And this is just a throw out to Paige, takes you to some places with beautiful views. So again, the rock climbing itself is not super difficult. I think they rated at 5.6, 5.7, but it's most of
There's
it.
like one move of 5.6 on it.
Yeah, so most of it is really scrambling, fourth class. I think it's just absolutely glorious type of climbing.
That's me.
Yep. So that's Paige. Rocking it out.
There was like one move of 5-6 on it, and the crux had a piece of fixed gear in it.
Yeah.
If you
Yeah.
remember that, there was like
Yep.
a cam that was stuck in there.
Yeah. So now I'm going to move into the actual details of placing trad gear. First of all, we need to be able to read the route. And I'm going to talk about a few things here about how to read the route. First of all, when you're trad climbing, your first piece needs to be multi-directional. And the reason for that is that if you have your belayer, I'm going to try to see if I can do this. So your belayer is down here, and the rope goes to your first piece of protection, and then you keep on climbing. So you're up here, and you've put in another piece or two. If you fall, the rope is going to want to straighten out, and so it's going to pull that first piece of protection in an outward direction. So when you're reading the route, one of the first things you need to do is place a multi-directional piece of gear. Most of the time, that's a cam. You can put passive gear in and equalize it. So you can have a piece of gear like a wedge that's in a downward direction of fall, and then you can have another wedge that's in an outward direction of fall. You could equalize those two together so that if you actually fell at the start of the climb, you'd be held, and then as you go up, if you fall, that first piece wouldn't come out. Because the problem if that first piece comes out is that it starts to do a reverse zipper of all the pieces that you've placed. So the first piece pops out and the rope keeps wanting to straighten. It's going to pop the next piece out and then the next piece out, and potentially you have no protection left. Good stances are super important when you're placing trad gear. So when I'm looking at a trad route, I am trying to figure out where I'm going to stand to make my my placements. You can see here, this woman's got a pretty good stance. She's up on her toes. If you see here, her right hand has a good grip, so it's easy for her left hand to place high. I teach that typically placing trad gear high is good, especially when you have good stances and you can clip it. It just means that you're decreasing the length of your fall. Now, of course, if you're having to place gear in a stance that's not super solid, it's back to placing gear between your waist and shoulders so that you're not pulling out so much rope when you're clipping. So I'm looking for good stances when I'm reading the rock. I'm looking for where I'm going to place gear that will protect me from large ledges. So the large ledge may provide a place for me to make place a piece of gear, but then if I'm climbing up above that piece and I can't get another piece in above that, and my fall is going to cause me to land on that ledge, I got to find another place to put another piece of gear in, or I have to accept that risk and just climb through, just commit and climb through. I'm going to talk more about that in a little bit, but so another thing I'm considering when I'm reading the rock is saving pieces. So this guy's got a great stance right here. I mean, this is bomber. So you might as well take your time and find a piece that you can place that's fairly easy. Maybe he needs to save gear, like a big cams for up higher. So he works a little harder down here at this stance because he's got a great stance, places a smaller nut, and then he keeps his big cams for up high. So placing high, I just talked about that a little bit. I tend to like to place high. This guy's placing 2 brass nuts. We typically don't place brass nuts on lead. Potentially he's aid climbing, or he's just going to equalize these 2 brass nuts. So the one principle is just reach high when in a good stance and clip high. Another one is that if I know that I have to climb through a crux move that's up high, I might choose to equalize 2 pieces. Saved my life on the Moby Dick, that story I told you guys earlier, that I equalized 2 pieces, a piton and a small nut. Probably either one of those 2 would have fallen out and I wouldn't be here. So I highly recommend, if you have got a good stance and you know you're not going to be able to protect the crux, to go ahead and equalize those 2 nuts, even put a locking carabiner on the rope there. Just increase your margin for air. So this is part of the game. Is once you've placed a good piece of gear, you just have to commit. There's no other way around that. Hesitation just costs you so much energy. And I love this photo because it totally looks like she's committing. She's placed a piece of gear, now she's going for it, which is fun. Part of that analysis of whether to commit for me is the fall going to be clean? So you can see in this photo, do you guys see the photo okay? Or does my
Some of the editing stuff's kind of in the way.
yeah, that's what I'm trying to figure out. Okay, let's see if I can do this. There we go. Okay, so
Perfect.
yeah, so to me this is glorious. I mean, difficult climbing, scary. I'd be shitting my pants on this one, but like, it's probably gonna fall pretty clean. It's pretty steep. Looks like, you know, probably got a decent piece of gear in. This section here, probably not going to be able to place gear. It's hard to tell in this photo exactly, but I'm thinking I'm going to get right there, either have a good foot jam, and then I can place my next piece of gear. So if he's about, you know, 6 feet, then he's probably got like, he's going to be run out about 12 feet. So you're going to take a 24-foot fall. So at some point in trad climbing, take a deep breath, commit, and just don't hesitate, right? It's not going to do any good to hesitate right here. Like, he's screwed. So you just got to get to that next spot where you're going to have a good stance, take a deep breath, and get your next piece in. Or you decide it's not, you're not willing to take that risk, and then you're just going to have to be lowered down off that piece of gear. You may have to leave a piece of gear behind, and in the long run, that's totally okay. Okay, so before I go into how to place passive gear and how to actually place active gear, just any questions about reading the rock, like reading the climb, or people that have been doing a little bit of trad climbing, any other things to add that you think about when you're reading the rock?
I look for feet. I look for good feet for stances.
Yes.
So when I'm looking at a route and I look and see like where the big chunks are that I can put my feet on, because then I know that if I have at least one good foot, then I've probably got a good enough stance to place something.
Yep. Yeah, I totally agree.
Because it's a lot easier to place when you have your foot on something than when you're hanging, because you have to use one of your hands to place. So you have to take at least one of your hands off.
Yeah, I haven't mastered the placement with my mouth yet, so.
Definitely the trad gear goes in the mouth and then to the wall.
Right. Okay, so